Jake wiped the grease from his hands and looked at the clock on the wall. 3 in the morning. The repair dock was quiet, just the way he liked it. Most of the station crew had gone to sleep hours ago, but Jake preferred working the night shift. Fewer interruptions meant more time to focus on the delicate work of repairing alien propulsion systems. He walked across the empty hangar bay, his boots echoing on the metal floor. The space station sat on the edge of Terran territory, a neutral ground where ships from dozens of different species came for repairs. Jake had worked here for 5 years, and he had seen almost every type of spacecraft in the known galaxy. Each one was different, each one a puzzle to solve. The console on the wall beeped. Jake frowned and walked over to check it. Someone was requesting emergency docking permission. That was strange. The station did not accept unauthorized ships, especially not in the middle of the night. He pulled up the display and studied the readings. The ship was badly damaged. Its power signature was weak and unstable. Life support was failing. Someone aboard that vessel was in serious trouble. Jake reached for the communication button, then hesitated. Station protocols were clear. No unauthorized dockings without proper clearance from security, but whoever was on that ship did not have time to wait for paperwork. The life support readings were dropping fast. He made his decision and pressed the button to open the bay doors. The ship limped into the hangar, trailing sparks and venting atmosphere from a dozen hull breaches. Jake had never seen anything like it. The vessel was elegant despite the damage, with sleek lines and scales etched into the hull plating. He recognized the design immediately. His stomach tightened. There were dragon-like aliens known throughout the galaxy for their pride and isolationist policies. They rarely spoke to humans, viewing them as primitive newcomers who had barely learned to travel between stars. Jake had never actually met in person. They did not come to human stations for repairs. The ship touched down with a grinding screech of metal. Systems were failing all across its hull. Jake grabbed his emergency toolkit and ran toward the vessel, his mind racing through what he knew about technology. Not much. They guarded their secrets carefully. The airlock opened with a hiss of escaping air. Jake stopped in his tracks. A female stood in the doorway. She was tall, nearly 7 feet, with scales that gleamed pure white even in the dim light of the hangar. Jake had read about Albino. They were incredibly rare, considered sacred among their people. He had never expected to see one in person. She stumbled forward, and Jake saw the burns across her arms and chest. Her breathing was labored. A translator device hung around her neck, sparking and malfunctioning. "Please," she said, her voice broken by static from the damaged translator. "Please help." Then she fell. Jake caught her before she hit the ground. She was heavier than she looked, her body dense with muscle and bone. He lowered her carefully to the floor, checking her injuries. Burns, some deep cuts, but nothing immediately life-threatening. She would survive. "My mate," she gasped, gripping his arm with surprising strength. Her claws dug into his sleeve. "Inside, dying, please." Jake looked toward the ship. His training told him to call security, to follow protocols, to let the proper authorities handle this. But the desperation in her eyes stopped him. It was a look he recognized, something that went beyond species or language. Pure fear for someone she loved. "Show me," he said. She tried to stand, but her legs gave out. Jake helped her up, supporting her weight as they moved toward the ship. The interior was a mess. Panels had been torn from the walls, wiring hung loose from the ceiling. Scorch marks covered every surface. This ship had been in a fight, and it had barely escaped. The female led him to what looked like a medical bay. Jake stepped inside and stopped. A male lay on a table in the center of the room. He was massive, easily 8 feet tall, with scales the color of midnight. His chest rose and fell in short, shallow gasps. Blood pooled beneath him, dark blue against the white medical table. "Pirates," the female said, her translator finally stabilizing. "Raiders, they attacked us 6 hours ago. They wanted me. My genetic traits are valuable on the black market, fought them, protected me, but he was hurt." Jake moved closer to the injured male. He had no medical training, but he knew machines, and living bodies were just biological machines. He could see the problem immediately. They had 2 hearts, and one of them had been badly damaged. Without it functioning, the other heart could not pump enough blood through his massive body. "How long does he have?" Jake asked. "Hours, maybe less." The female's voice cracked. Our people are 3 days away. The nearest medical facility is too far. I came here because I saw no other choice. I know humans and are not friends. I know you have no reason to help us. But I am begging you." She fell to her knees before him. "My name is Lyra. His name is, we have been bonded for 10 years. If he dies, part of me dies with him. Please, I will give you anything, do anything, just save him." Jake looked at her, then at the dying male on the table. Every logical part of his brain told him to refuse. He was a mechanic, not a doctor. Biology was completely different from human biology. He had no idea how to help, and if he tried and failed, there could be serious diplomatic consequences. But he thought about what it would be like to watch someone he loved die, knowing he had done nothing. "I cannot promise anything," Jake said, "but I will try." Lyra looked up at him, tears streaming down her white scales. "Why?" she whispered. "Why would you help us? Your people and mine barely speak. We have shown you no respect, given you no friendship. Why risk everything for strangers?" Jake knelt down beside her and met her eyes. "Because it is the right thing to do," he said simply. "That is reason enough." He stood and walked to his side, studying the injuries with a mechanic's eye. The damaged heart was like a broken pump in a hydraulic system. The lungs were like air compressors struggling to function. If he could not fix them, maybe he could bypass them, create a temporary solution until proper help arrived. It was crazy, it would probably fail, but he had to try. "Tell me everything about physiology," Jake said. "Every detail you know, we have work to do." Lyra rose to her feet, hope flickering in her eyes for the first time since she had arrived. She began to speak, and Jake listened carefully, his mind already working through solutions. He did not know if he could save, but he would not let him die without trying. That was what humans did. They tried, even when the odds were impossible. Jake ran through the corridors of the repair station, his mind racing faster than his feet. He had left Lyra with, monitoring his vital signs while Jake gathered supplies. The workshop was 3 levels down, and every second counted. He burst through the door and started grabbing tools from the shelves. Welding equipment, power cells, medical supplies from the emergency kit, anything that might be useful. He had spent an hour listening to Lyra describe anatomy, and now he understood the problem better. But understanding and fixing were two very different things. Had 2 hearts that worked in sequence, like pumps in a complex engine. The primary heart pushed blood through the body while the secondary heart maintained pressure and filtered toxins. With the primary heart damaged, the secondary could not handle the load alone, was essentially running on half power, and his body was slowly shutting down. Traditional medicine used crystal resonance technology, devices that could repair tissue at the molecular level. Jake had read about such technology, but humans had never been cleared to access it. They guarded their medical secrets carefully. Even if Jake had known how it worked, he did not have the equipment. But he had something else, human ingenuity. Jake loaded everything into a cart and headed back to the hangar. His mind was already working through the problem from a different angle. If he could not repair the damaged heart, maybe he could create a bypass system, something to take the pressure off the secondary heart until proper help arrived. When he returned to the ship, Lyra was leaning over, whispering to him in their native language. She looked up as Jake entered, her white scales pale with worry. "His breathing is worse," she said. "I do not think he has much time." Jake set down his tools and moved to the table. His chest was rising and falling in rapid, shallow movements. His eyes were closed and his scales had lost their shine. Jake checked the readings on the medical monitor. Heart rate was erratic. Blood pressure was dropping. They had an hour at most. "I need you to trust me," Jake said to Lyra. "What I am about to do no doctor would approve of, but it might keep him alive." Lyra studied his face for a long moment. "You are going to treat him like one of your machines," she said. It was not a question. "Yes," Jake admitted. "It is the only way I know how to help." She nodded slowly. "Do it, I trust you." Jake began unpacking his equipment. He explained his plan as he worked, partly to help Lyra understand and partly to organize his own thoughts. He would create a mechanical bypass around the damaged heart, using a portable pump to maintain blood flow while the secondary heart handled the rest. It was crude compared to crystal technology, but it might work. "Why are you doing this?" Lyra asked as she helped him prepare. "You do not know us. Your people and mine have barely spoken in all the years since humans joined the galactic community. We have shown you nothing but contempt. called you primitive, refused to trade or share knowledge. Why risk your career, possibly your freedom, to help strangers who have treated you so poorly? Jake carefully connected a power cell to the portable pump, testing the flow rate. Because you are in trouble and I can help, he said. It is that simple. Humans do not base compassion on whether someone has been kind to us before. We help because it is right. Lyra watched him work in silence for several minutes. Then she spoke again, her voice quiet. That makes no sense to my people. We value honor and strength. We help our allies because they have proven worthy. We ignore our enemies because they have not. You help everyone whether they deserve it or not. That is not strength. That is weakness. Jake looked up from his work and met her eyes. Is it? He asked. Your people are strong warriors, great builders, advanced in technology far beyond what humans have achieved, but is dying because you had nowhere else to turn. No allies close enough to help. No friendships outside your own kind. How strong is that, really? Lyra had no answer. Jake returned to his work. He cut away the damaged plating on his chest, exposing the injury beneath. The primary heart was visible now, its surface torn and bleeding. Jake had never seen anything like it, but the mechanics were familiar. Blood needed to flow in and blood needed to flow out. A pump was a pump, whether biological or mechanical. He began installing the bypass system, connecting tubes to the major blood vessels. His hands were steady despite the pressure. He had repaired countless machines under impossible deadlines. This was just another repair job. He could not think of it as a life hanging in the balance, or his hands would shake. Lyra assisted, following his instructions precisely despite her own injuries. She held vessels in place while he connected the pump. She monitored the readings while he adjusted the flow rate. They worked together in silence, two beings from different worlds united by a common purpose. There, Jake said finally, the pump is connected. Now I need to start it slowly, let his body adjust to the new flow pattern. He activated the device. The pump hummed to life, quiet but steady. Jake watched the monitor carefully. Blood pressure began to rise, heart rate stabilized. His breathing slowed, becoming deeper and more regular. It was working. Lyra made a sound that might have been a sob or a laugh. She gripped the edge of the table, her whole body shaking. He is stabilizing, she whispered. You did it, you actually did it. Jake allowed himself a small smile. This is just temporary, he reminded her. The pump will keep him alive, but he still needs proper medical care. Your people need to get here as soon as possible. I will contact them immediately, Lyra said. She started to move toward the communication console, then stopped. She turned back to Jake, and in a gesture that seemed to pain her pride, she bowed deeply. Thank you, she said. I owe you a debt that can never be repaid. Before Jake could respond, alarms began blaring throughout the station. The emergency lighting activated, bathing everything in red. A voice came over the intercom. Unauthorized vessel detected in Hangar Bay 7. Security teams respond immediately. Jake's stomach sank. He had known this moment would come, but he had hoped for more time. Heavy footsteps echoed in the corridor outside. A moment later, Commander Lisa Hayes appeared in the doorway, flanked by 4 security officers. She was a stern woman in her 50s, with short gray hair and eyes that missed nothing. Jake, she said, her voice hard, step away from the alien vessel. Jake did not move. They need help, Commander. He will die without medical attention. That is not your decision to make, Lisa replied. You violated multiple station protocols by allowing an unauthorized docking. You are interfering with a potentially hostile alien species without clearance. Do you have any idea what you have done? I saved a life, Jake said simply. Lisa's expression softened slightly, but her voice remained firm. I understand your intentions, Jake, but we have laws for a reason. The government must be, there will be questions, investigations. You could lose your position, possibly face criminal charges. Lyra stepped forward, placing herself between Jake and the security team. This human saved my mate when no one else would, she said, her voice carrying an edge of challenge. If you punish him for that, your people are as barbaric as mine believe. Before Lisa could respond, the station's long-range sensors began screaming warnings. Every screen in the room suddenly displayed the same message. Multiple ships approaching, unknown configuration, weapons hot. Lisa's face went pale. She tapped her communication device. Sensor station, identify those ships. A voice crackled back. Signatures, Commander, pirate-class vessels, 3 of them. They are broadcasting on all frequencies, demanding we surrender the female. Lisa looked at Lyra, then at Jake, her expression grim. The station shook as the ships entered weapons range. Jake grabbed the edge of the medical table to steady himself. Stirred slightly, the movement the first sign of consciousness since Jake had installed the bypass system. Commander Lisa Hayes was already on her communication device, barking orders to her security teams. Her face was tight with stress. The repair station had minimal defensive capabilities. It was designed to fix ships, not fight them. "How many people on board?" she asked her second-in-command through the device. 47, including crew and visitors, came the response. Lisa closed her eyes briefly, then opened them with renewed determination. She looked at Jake and Lyra. "The captain is demanding we hand over the female. He claims legal salvage rights on valuable genetic specimens. If we refuse, he will open fire on the station." "You cannot give me to them," Lyra said, her voice steady despite the fear in her eyes. "They will not just take me, they will kill everyone here to eliminate witnesses." "I know," Lisa said quietly. "Pirates do not leave loose ends." Jake felt his jaw tighten. He had spent 5 years on this station. He knew every person aboard by name. The young engineer who wanted to save enough money to buy his own ship. The cook who made terrible coffee but excellent stories. The maintenance worker who was saving up to bring her family from Earth. "We fight," Jake said. Lisa gave him a sharp look. "We have 2 security officers trained in combat and a handful of workers who know which end of a weapon is dangerous. They have 3 warships with military-grade weapons. This is not a fight we can win." "Then we make it too expensive for them to try," Jake replied. "Pirates are businessmen. They came for one target with minimal risk. If we can make it costly enough, they will leave." "With what?" Lisa demanded. "We have emergency weapons and a few old mining lasers, nothing that can damage a pirate ship." Jake's mind was already working through the problem. He looked around the hangar bay, seeing not just a repair facility but a workshop filled with tools that could be weaponized. Humans had a gift for turning anything into a weapon when necessary. "We have industrial equipment," he said. "Magnetic containment fields, welding lasers, plasma cutters. The docking clamps can generate enough force to crush hull plating. We improvise." Lisa stared at him like he had lost his mind. "You want to fight military warships with repair tools? You have a better idea." Before Lisa could respond, Lyra stepped forward. "I can help," she said. "Our ship still has functional weapons. I am injured, but I can operate them if someone assists me." "Your ship can barely maintain life support," Lisa pointed out. "Then we transfer power from life support to weapons," Lyra said simply. "Is stable. We do not need full environmental systems." The station shook again as the ships moved closer. A voice came through the communication system, harsh and mechanical. "This is Captain of the hunting fleet. You have 30 minutes to surrender the albino female. If you refuse, we will destroy your station and take her from the wreckage. These are the only terms." The communication cut off. Lisa looked at Jake, then at Lyra, then at her security officers. Jake could see the calculation in her eyes, the weighing of lives and duty and impossible choices. "If we do this," she said slowly, "if we fight, people will die, maybe everyone. Are you prepared for that?" Jake thought about the alternative, watching Lyra be dragged away, knowing that his choice to help her had brought death to the station anyway, living with the knowledge that he had surrendered without trying. "I would rather die trying to do right than live knowing I did nothing," he said. Lisa held his gaze for a long moment, then nodded. "All right, we fight." She activated her station-wide communication. "This is Commander Hayes, all personnel battle stations. This is not a drill. Prepare for hostile action." The next 20 minutes were chaos. Jake ran through the station, showing workers how to rig industrial equipment as weapons. The magnetic containment fields used to hold ships during repair could be modified to disrupt sensors and targeting systems. The welding lasers could be focused and redirected. Even the fire suppression systems could be weaponized, flooding sections with chemical foam to block visual sensors. It was desperate and crude, but it might give them a chance. Lyra returned to her ship, moving carefully to avoid damaging Jake's bypass system. She powered up the weapon systems, routing energy from every non-essential system. The ship would be helpless after firing, but it would get one good shot. Jake found himself in the main control room with Lisa and two security officers. Screens showed the approaching ships. They were close now, their weapons charging. "They are hailing us again," one of the officers said. "Put them through," Lisa ordered. The screen flickered, showing a captain. He was reptilian with scales the color of rust and eyes like cold metal. He smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. "Your time is up, humans. Surrender the female now." "No," Lisa said simply. Smile widened. "Foolish, you will all die for a creature that is not even your species. That is the problem with humans. You care too much about things that do not matter." Jake stepped forward so the captain could see him. "That is where you are wrong," he said. "We care because it does matter. Every life matters. That is something pirates will never understand." Laughed. "Noble words from a dead man. Open fire." The ships unleashed their weapons. The station's shields flickered and held, but barely. Warning alarms screamed throughout the facility. "Return fire," Lisa ordered. Jake activated the systems he had rigged. Magnetic fields erupted outward, creating interference that scrambled the pirates' targeting. Welding lasers lanced out, not powerful enough to pierce ship armor but bright enough to blind sensors. The docking clamps released with built-up energy, hurling debris at the attacking ships. It was working. The ships scattered, their formation breaking as they tried to compensate for the unexpected resistance. Then Lyra fired. The ship's main weapon unleashed a beam of pure energy that cut through space like a knife. It struck one of the vessel's dead center, punching through shields and armor. The pirate ship exploded in a brilliant flash. For a moment there was silence. Then's voice came back, no longer amused. You actually dare to fight. We will tear that station apart piece by piece." The two remaining ships opened fire with everything they had. The station's shields failed. Hull breaches opened in 3 sections. The lights flickered and died, replaced by emergency lighting. Jake watched the readings on his screen. They could not take much more. One more barrage would destroy them. He looked at Lisa. She looked back and he saw the same acceptance in her eyes. They had tried. That would have to be enough. Then something impossible happened. Space rippled. Energy signatures bloomed across the sensors. 4 massive ships dropped out of hyperspace directly between the station and the pirates. Jake recognized the design immediately. Warships. The lead vessel broadcast on all frequencies, the voice cold and commanding. "This is Fleet Commander of the 3rd Fleet. The beings you are attacking are under the protection of the Council. Withdraw immediately or be destroyed." His face appeared on screen again, his confidence gone. "This is neutral space. You have no authority here. The female aboard that station is Lyra, an albino of the sacred bloodline. She has formally requested protection. Any being who harms her or those who sheltered her will face the full weight of law. You have 10 seconds to begin your retreat." The ships did not wait for the countdown to finish. They jumped to hyperspace, their retreat so fast it left sensor ghosts on the screens. Jake let out a breath he had not known he was holding. Around the control room, people began to cheer and cry with relief. Lisa activated her communication. "All sections, damage report. Medical teams to sections 7 and 12. Jake slumped into a chair, suddenly exhausted. They had survived. Against all odds, they had survived. The fleet commander's voice came through the station's communication system. "We are sending a medical team to retrieve our people. Prepare for docking." Lisa looked at Jake. "You just started a diplomatic incident that will be talked about for years," she said. Fleet Commander was not what Jake expected. The warrior was massive, even by his species standards, with scales the color of polished bronze and scars that spoke of countless battles. His eyes were sharp and calculating as he stepped aboard the repair station, flanked by 2 medical technicians carrying advanced equipment. Commander Lisa Hayes met him in the docking bay, her uniform still scorched from the battle. Jake stood beside her, acutely aware of how small humans looked next to the towering. "Commander Hayes," said, his voice deep and formal. "I am Fleet Commander. I have come to retrieve our people and assess the situation." "They are this way," Lisa replied, leading him toward the hangar where Lyra and waited. followed, his gaze sweeping across the damaged station. Jake could see him nodding every detail, every improvised weapon system that still smoldered from use. The fleet commander's expression remained unreadable. They entered the hangar bay. Lyra stood beside's medical table, her hand resting gently on his chest. She looked up as they approached, and her eyes widened. "Fleet Commander," she said, bowing despite her injuries, "I did not expect the Council to send someone of your rank. An albino of the sacred bloodline calls for help, and you think we would send lesser warriors," replied. His tone was stern, but Jake caught a hint of concern beneath it. "Tell me what happened, Lyra, all of it." Lyra explained the pirate attack, her desperate flight to the station, and its injuries. She spoke clearly and precisely, as if giving a military report. When she finished, turned his attention to. The medical technicians immediately began their work, scanning with devices that glowed with soft blue light. One of them paused, staring at the readings in confusion. "Commander," the technician said, "there is human technology attached to his primary heart, some kind of mechanical bypass system." His eyes narrowed. He looked at the crude pump that Jake had installed, then at Jake himself. "You did this?" he demanded. "Yes," Jake said, meeting the fleet commander's gaze steadily. "He was dying. I had to try something." "You are a human mechanic with no medical training," said. It was a statement, not a question. "You attempted surgery on a species you know nothing about, using tools designed for machines. You could have killed him." "Or I could have saved him," Jake replied, "which is what happened." The medical technician spoke up again, his voice filled with reluctant admiration. "Fleet Commander, this bypass system is remarkably effective. Primitive, yes, but functional. Without it would have died hours ago. This human kept him alive long enough for us to arrive." Studied Jake for a long moment, then he turned to Lyra. "Is this true? This human saved life?" "Yes," Lyra said firmly. "When I arrived here, I had nowhere else to turn. The nearest facility was days away. This human, Jake, took us in despite having no obligation to help. He risked his career and his life to save a stranger from a species that has shown his people nothing but contempt. Then, when pirates came, he organized the defense of this station rather than surrender me to them." His expression remained stern, but something shifted in his eyes. He walked over to where lay and examined the bypass system more closely. "Explain to me how this works," he ordered Jake. Jake stepped forward and began describing the system, pointing out each component and how it functioned. Listened in silence, occasionally asking technical questions. The other in the room watched with varying degrees of surprise as their fleet commander engaged in discussion with a human mechanic. "Ingenious," said finally. "Crude, but ingenious. You saw our biology not as something alien, but as a system to be understood. That is a very human way of thinking." "Is that an insult or a compliment?" Jake asked. For the first time, stern expression cracked slightly. It might have been a smile. "Both," he said. The medical technicians finished their work, replacing Jake's bypass system with proper technology. His vital signs strengthened immediately. His eyes opened, unfocused at first, then sharpening as he recognized Lyra. "Lyra," he whispered, his voice weak but clear, "you are safe." "I am safe," she said, gripping his hand, "thanks to the humans." His gaze shifted to Jake. The massive warrior studied him for a moment, then spoke. "You saved my life." "I tried to help," Jake said simply. "That is all." "Why?" asked. "Lyra told me you are a mechanic, not a doctor, not a soldier, just a worker on a repair station. Why risk everything for strangers?" Jake had been asked this question so many times in the past few hours that he was tired of answering it. But he could see that genuinely wanted to understand, so he tried one more time. "Because you needed help and I could give it," he said. "Humans do not need complicated reasons to do the right thing, we just do it." Closed his eyes, processing this. When he opened them again, he looked at. "Fleet Commander, I formally invoke the debt of honor. This human saved my life when I was helpless. He defended my mate when she was in danger. By the ancient codes of our people, I owe him a debt that must be acknowledged." Nodded slowly. "I will report this to the council, but I agree with your assessment." He turned to Jake. "Jake, the people owe you a debt. Such debts are not taken lightly by my kind." "I do not want payment," Jake said. "I just wanted to help." "That is precisely why the debt is so profound," replied. You helped without expectation of reward. That is rare in the galaxy, especially rare between our peoples. Commander Lisa stepped forward, seizing the opportunity. If I may, Fleet Commander, perhaps this incident could mark a new beginning between our peoples. Earth and they have had minimal contact. Maybe it is time to change that. Consider this carefully. You defended our people at great risk to yourselves. You showed courage and ingenuity. These are qualities the respect. He paused. I will recommend to the Council that we establish formal diplomatic relations with Earth. It is clear we have underestimated your species. Jake felt a strange mixture of pride and embarrassment. He had not set out to change galactic politics. He had just wanted to help someone who was hurt. The medical technicians finished preparing for transport. They moved him carefully onto an anti-gravity stretcher, the bypass system still attached as a backup. Lyra walked beside him, her hand never leaving his. Before they boarded the medical ship, called Jake over. "Human," he said, "Jake, I have something for you." He reached into a pouch at his waist and pulled out a small metal disc. It was made of dark metal, engraved with symbols Jake did not recognize. Pressed it into Jake's hand. "This is an honor token," explained. "It marks you as one who has earned the respect of our people. Very few outsiders have ever received such a token. Keep it safe. It may serve you well one day." Jake looked down at the disc, feeling its weight in his palm. It was warm to the touch, as if it held some internal heat. "Thank you," he said quietly. Lyra approached him next. She looked healthier already, the medical technology working quickly to heal her injuries. "I do not have words to express my gratitude," she said. "When I came here, I thought humans were primitive and simple. I was wrong. You showed me that strength comes in many forms, that compassion is not weakness, that sometimes the bravest thing is to help someone even when you gain nothing from it." She reached out and touched his shoulder, a gesture of deep respect among her people. "I will not forget what you did for us," she said. "Neither will my people." Then they were gone, boarding the medical ship and departing with an escort of warships. Jake stood in the hangar bay, watching the ships disappear into hyperspace. Lisa walked up beside him. "You know this is not over, right?" she said. "There will be investigations, reports, probably some diplomat from Earth asking you 1,000 questions about what happened here." "I know," Jake said. "Was it worth it?" Jake thought about's eyes opening, about Lyra's tears of relief, about the station crew who had fought alongside him without hesitation. "Yes," he said, "it was worth it." Lisa nodded. 3 months had passed since the incident with Lyra and Jake stood in his workshop, repairing a cargo ship's navigation system, when Commander Lisa Hayes appeared in the doorway. "You have visitors," she said, a slight smile on her face. Jake looked up from his work, confused. He was not expecting anyone. Lisa stepped aside, and Jake's eyes widened. Lyra entered the workshop, both looking healthy and strong. Moved with the same powerful grace as before, showing no signs of his near-fatal injuries. Lyra's white scales gleamed in the workshop lights. "Jake," Lyra said warmly, "it is good to see you again." Jake set down his tools and crossed the room to greet them. "I did not expect to see you back here," he admitted. "How is your recovery?" Touched his chest where the injuries had been. "Complete. Thanks to you and our medical team, I am fully healed. The doctors studied your bypass system. They said it was remarkably clever, if primitive. They are actually considering adapting some of your techniques for emergency field medicine." "I am glad it helped," Jake said. "What brings you back to the station?" Lyra exchanged a glance, then spoke. "We requested permission from Fleet Commander to stay here temporarily. We wish to learn more about humans and your culture. After what you did for us, we realized how little we truly understood about your people." "You want to stay here?" Jake asked, surprised. "If Commander Hayes allows it," Lyra confirmed. "We will not interfere with station operations. We simply want to observe and learn." Lisa stepped forward. "I approved their request," she said. "The Council has officially established diplomatic relations with Earth. Having Lyra and here as informal ambassadors seems like a good start. Plus, they have offered to help with station repairs. Apparently has engineering experience." "Weapons engineering, mostly," admitted. "But I am willing to learn civilian applications." Jake found himself smiling. The thought of having the two around the station was oddly appealing. "Welcome aboard, then," he said. "I will show you around after I finish this repair." Over the following weeks, Lyra became a regular presence on the station. They learned about human culture, asking endless questions about everything from food to philosophy. In turn, they taught the station crew about customs and technology. Jake found himself spending a lot of time with them, had a natural talent for engineering, and the two of them worked together on various projects. Lyra often joined them, fascinated by the way humans approached problem-solving. One evening, Jake was having dinner in the station cafeteria when Lyra sat down across from him. She carried a tray of food, though nutritional needs were quite different from human ones. "I have a question," she said, "a philosophical one." "Go ahead," Jake replied, curious. "Why do humans help others so freely? Not just us, but I have watched your people interact with dozens of different species. You trade fairly, you share knowledge, you risk yourselves for strangers. This is not normal behavior in the galaxy. Most species operate on strict reciprocity. You give only what you expect to receive, but humans give without expectation. Why?" Jake thought about the question carefully. It was something he had never really considered before. "I think it is because we know what it is like to be helpless," he said finally. "Humanity spent thousands of years alone on one planet, struggling to survive. We faced disasters, diseases, wars. We learned that the only way to survive was to help each other. That instinct stayed with us even after we reached the stars." "But you are no longer helpless," Lyra pointed out. "Humanity is a recognized power now. You have advanced technology, strong military forces, and growing influence. You could choose to be like other species, to take what you want and ignore those weaker than you, yet you do not. Why?" Jake smiled. "Because that is not who we want to be. We remember being weak. We do not want others to suffer the way we did. So we help even when it costs us, even when we gain nothing, because that is what we wished someone had done for us." Lyra was quiet for a long moment, processing this. "My people value strength above all else," she said softly. "We believe that the strong should lead and the weak should follow, that compassion is a luxury only the powerful can afford. But I am starting to think we have been wrong. Strength without compassion is just brutality, and compassion without strength is useless. You humans have found a balance we never considered." "We are not perfect," Jake said. "We make mistakes, we argue among ourselves, we have our own problems and conflicts, but we try to do better. That is all anyone can do." Lyra nodded slowly, then stood. "Thank you, Jake. You have given me much to think about." A week later, Jake received a message from Earth Command. He read it in his quarters, his hands shaking slightly. The message was formal, congratulating him on his actions and the positive impact on human relations. It offered him a position as a cultural liaison, working to build bridges between the two species. The pay was excellent, the prestige significant. Jake stared at the message for a long time, then he deleted it. The next morning found him in the workshop. "I heard you received an offer from your government," they said. "A prestigious position. Why did you refuse it?" Jake looked up from the engine he was repairing. "Because this is where I belong," he said simply. "I am a mechanic. I fix things. That is what I am good at. I do not want to be a diplomat or a politician. I just want to do my job and help people when I can." Studied him with those sharp eyes. Most beings would have taken the promotion, the recognition, the power. "I am not most beings," Jake replied with a small smile. Laughed a deep rumbling sound. "No, you are not. You are very human." That evening, Fleet Commander arrived at the station for an official diplomatic visit. He met with Commander Hayes to discuss the growing partnership between Earth and the. Afterward, requested to speak with Jake privately. They met in one of the station's observation lounges, looking out at the stars. "The Council has been discussing you," said without preamble. "What you did has caused significant debate among our people. Some see it as proof that we have been too isolated, too quick to judge other species. Others see it as an anomaly, a single act that does not represent humanity as a whole." "What do you think?" Jake asked. Considered the question carefully. "I think you showed us something we had forgotten. That true strength is not just about power or technology. It is about choosing to use that power wisely, about protecting those who cannot protect themselves, about doing what is right even when it costs you." He turned to face Jake directly. The Council has decided to establish a joint research station, staffed by both humans and a place where our two species can work together and learn from each other. We would like you to be part of the project, not as a leader but as what you are, a mechanic who sees problems differently than we do. Jake felt a surge of interest, but also hesitation. What about my work here? The station would be nearby, assured him. You could split your time between both locations. We are not asking you to change who you are, Jake. We are asking you to be yourself in a larger context. Jake looked out at the stars, thinking about the opportunity. A chance to work with advanced technology, to build something new, to continue the bridge he had started. I will do it, he said finally. On one condition, the station has to be open to all species, not just humans, and if we are building a bridge, it should be wide enough for everyone to cross. Smiled, that rare expression that made him seem almost friendly. Agreed, I will inform the Council. 6 months later, the Joint Research Station opened. It was a marvel of combined technology, human adaptability merged with precision. Scientists and engineers from a dozen different species came to work there, drawn by the promise of cooperation and shared knowledge. Jake spent half his time at the new station and half at the repair dock. He preferred the variety. At the research station, he worked on cutting-edge projects, solving problems that had stumped the best minds in the galaxy. At the repair dock, he fixed broken ships and helped travelers in need. Lyra and became permanent residents of the research station. Lyra worked as a cultural advisor, helping different species understand each other. Led the engineering division, his military experience proving valuable in unexpected ways. One day, a year after the incident that started it all, Jake found himself back in his original workshop. A damaged freighter had limped in, the captain desperate for repairs before his cargo spoiled. Jake rolled up his sleeves and got to work. As he repaired the ship's cooling system, he thought about how much had changed. Relations between humans were better than anyone had imagined. The research station was producing breakthroughs in science and medicine. Other species were starting to see humans not as primitive newcomers, but as valuable partners. All because he had chosen to help someone in need. The freighter captain thanked him profusely when the repairs were complete, offering extra payment. Jake refused, accepting only the standard fee. Why did you help me? The captain asked, a four-armed being from a species Jake did not recognize. You could have charged emergency rates, demanded premium payment, but you did not. Jake smiled, hearing echoes of Lyra's questions from months ago. Because you needed help, he said. That is reason enough. As the freighter departed, Jake stood in the hangar bay watching it go. Commander Hayes walked up beside him. Earth Command sent another message, she said. They want to give you a medal, a formal ceremony, recognition for your contributions to interstellar relations. What did you tell them? Jake asked. That you were busy, Lisa replied with a grin. That you had ships to fix. Jake laughed. Thank you, Commander. They stood in comfortable silence, watching ships come and go through the busy station. The repair dock that had once been a quiet outpost was now a hub of activity, species from across the galaxy coming to trade and repair and simply meet. You changed everything, you know, Lisa said softly. One choice, one act of compassion, and it rippled outward, touching thousands of lives. Jake shook his head. I just helped someone who needed it. Anyone would have done the same. No, Lisa said firmly. They would not have. That is what makes humans special, Jake. That is what makes you special. You see someone in trouble and you help. No calculation, no hesitation, just help. Jake thought about Lyra and recovered and happy. About the research station bringing species together. About all the small kindnesses that had followed from his simple choice. Maybe that is enough, he said quietly. Maybe helping one person at a time is how you change the galaxy. Lisa put a hand on his shoulder. Maybe it is. Jake returned to his workshop, ready for whatever came next. There would be more ships to repair, more people to help, more problems to solve, and he would face them all the same way he always had. One step at a time, one person at a time, with the simple belief that doing right was its own reward. That was the human way, and it was enough. Get some rest, Jake, you earned it. Jake walked back to his quarters, the honor token heavy in his pocket. He had work to do tomorrow, ships to repair, systems to fix. But tonight he allowed himself to feel satisfied. He had done something good, something that mattered. That was enough. Jake managed a tired smile. I just wanted to help someone fix their ship. It seems your problems just became ours.